Okay, folks, we're back for the third review of this Leatherman Surge. As you can see, it's a gorgeous tool, very large. I mean, when this thing is in the open position, it's probably close to 7 inches long, probably 6.5 to 7 inches long when it's in its deployed pliers. Very aggressive set of pliers, as you can see. A couple of minor gripes I had about this tool. I think that they're worth mentioning. Number one, the tool is almost too large. I mean, granted, it has 18 different tools built into this Surge, but it's almost too large in the sense that when you're gripping it, you've got to have fairly large hands to hold this thing. For instance, the SOG Power Assist tool and the Victorinox Swiss Tool X give pretty good gripping power because the tool is not quite so large. It might only come out to here, for instance, rather than all the way out to here, which means that you have far more gripping power with the Victorinox Swiss tool, for instance, and the SOG Power Assist. And why do I mention those two tools? Number one, they're both heavy-duty tools, but number two, they allow for the blade deployment on the outside, external blade deployment, which I thought was very important. That's why I'm comparing this tool to those two tools. Gerber does have a couple of tools that have external blade deployment as well, so that we can take that into consideration also. Another thing is, another gripe I have is when it's in its closed position. So let me close it for you guys here. When it's in its closed position, and for instance you're gripping, notice the sharp edges that stick out here. Let me just show you. See that sharp edge that sticks out? Okay, I'm gonna flip it over. Again, you see that sharp edge that sticks out? That's actually jamming your hand when you have that tool. When you're using another tool, for instance. So for instance, let's just say I'm using this serrated blade and I'm holding this like so. I'm actually jamming my hand into this thing. I mean, it hurts, honestly. Notice these sharp edges. Look at that. Sharp edges. When you're holding this thing for a long time and you're exerting force, that is going to hurt your hands. What I would recommend what you do if you're going to get this tool is you get yourself a pair of gloves. Very important, because without a pair of gloves, you guys, it'll really hurt your hands. So let me close this thing shut. Also, a couple other gripes I had was the leather, and I'm going to put this tool on the side here for a moment, and I'm going to reintroduce the sheath that it comes with. I mean, this is not a big deal necessarily. I would definitely opt for a nylon sheath, and the reason why is the leather sheath that this came with is actually a very rigid leather. I mean, as you can see, it doesn't want to stay closed. What I did like about this sheath is it gives you side. I mean, this is a really big tool, so you want to be able to hold it on the side, or if you wanted it like this, you can hold it like this as well. You'll notice there's a hole in the bottom, and what that hole is designed for is if you're working, for instance, and for instance your tool is deployed. I thought this was elegant on Leatherman's part. You can actually shove the tool in here. Well, it's designed to shove the tool in here and actually be able to have that sticking out. But this thing is so wide that it doesn't even allow you to get in very far. So that's, see that? I mean, that's not very good. So Leatherman, you know, pay attention to these reviews. Another thing I didn't like about this sheath is the fact that the Leatherman logo, it has been silk screened on there, and you know that's going to eventually wipe off. There's some other manufacturers such as SOG that does use leather sheaths. I have nothing against leather sheaths, but they do use leather sheaths, and they actually emboss the leather with their logo, which I thought was genius because that never rubs out. So I thought that was an ingenious design. One thing I wanted to mention, one thing that I liked about this tool was on the side of this tool, as you can see, there's the there's a hole. What's that hole for? Well, I mean, suppose you can carry a pen in here, but what it's designed for is to hold that bit extension that I was talking about. And what also I liked about this was you can actually, this is the blade or the file. You can actually put it right here behind. If I can open this up, hopefully you can see it clearly. You can put it right here behind the tool, so that way it's not in the way of the tool. So they've designed that pretty nicely, except they just didn't do the best job designing the sheath, in my opinion. They could have done a better job. They had all the right ideas, but you know they cheaped it out in some situations, which I thought was very unlike Leatherman to do so. And of course, the back to the tool itself, Leatherman does publish the weight of this tool. I think it's 12.5 ounces on their website. Factor the heft of these pliers with the uncomfortable gripping when it's in the closed position. It's very comfortable in the open position when it's using this plier in the closed position. I mean, factor that with this, and the fact that the fact that it may hurt your hand, and the heft of the tool, in my opinion, sometimes is a you've got to make a decision. Is that something that you're going to be used as your everyday carry, or EDC? Something that you have to sort of decide on your own. But I thought that it was worth mentioning, just the sheer weight and the some of the how uncomfortable it is when you're holding it. I thought Leatherman could have probably learned a thing or two about handling a multi-tool. And obviously, something to take into consideration: a multi-tool doesn't replace your tool set. That's not what it's designed for. It's designed for convenience. So, but having used one of these on the field, you learn very quickly that thing is really going to do some damage to your hands if you're gripping this thing and you're holding it all day long. So, something to take into consideration. So, one last look at the Leatherman Surge. Very, very beautiful tool. Very heavy tool. If you're looking for heft and you're looking for a great bang for your buck, because a ton of tools in a somewhat small package, and just a beautiful design by Leatherman. Very, very impressed with their design. All stainless steel, 25-year warranty, and like I said, you've really got to hold one of these in your hand to appreciate just the heft of this tool. And some of you may be out there saying, "Hey, I've got big hands, and I can definitely don't mind the weight." Then this is the perfect tool for you. So here it is in its deployed position, and we talked about the cutting power. One thing I forgot to mention: we talked about the cutting power of these. Let's see here. I just wanted to show this to you. The cutting power of the pliers, and if it can cut paper, then actually these pliers cannot leave the manufacturer if they can't cut paper. Believe it or not, that's how strict the guidelines on these pliers are. So if it can cut, it can, they say that this thing can cut 12 gauge steel or 12 gauge wire, and then turn around and cut paper. So they really maintain their edge. So that's it, folks. Leatherman Surge.